Hello, everyone. My name is Justin Miller, and I'm a communications specialist with the Alabama Cooperative Extension System. And today we're going to, in the spirit of the election season, go on the campaign trail. And we're going to be talking about developing social media campaigns. So the first question that we really need to ask is, what are social media campaigns? So generally, they are created to bring an awareness, raise money, educate audiences on a particular subject or theme. Now, what I mean by subject or theme, it can be very, very specific. Say, for instance, if you were going to do a wildlife campaign and you want to do specifically on the coral snake, that would be a very specific subject. But an overall arching theme, if you wanted to keep the campaign general and just say wildlife in general in an area or something like that. So that's kind of what they're intended for. They often use a variety of platforms and mediums. They don't have to, but they often do use more than one of each of those. Obviously, some common ones that you're going to see, the trilogy of social media, as I like to call them, the Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram are quite common to be used. And then some common mediums, again, these include these, but not excluding some other ones: video, text, images, and graphics. So those are some of the ones that you're going to see more often than not. So for today's purposes, I have broken down really campaigns for social media into two different types, and that would be planned and unplanned. Planned campaigns, generally a lot of the information such as dates, times, the materials you're going to use, the topic, those type of things are determined well in advance of when you actually start your campaign. So these campaigns have a clear outline, goal, and message established before they start, and often all of the materials that you create are created before the campaign begins. So think of a planned one is pretty much everything is planned ahead of time, ready to go when you need it to go. So an example of a planned campaign you might have is say, around harvest time, that there's going to be some issues with harvest safety. So you may just do a general campaign, go ahead and plan out some posts of harvest safety on the road, harvest safety in the field, harvest safety in the workshop, things like that. So you can go ahead and plan out those materials ahead of time. And the other type that is probably the most interesting and confusing to a lot of people is an unplanned social media campaign. And what makes these a lot more difficult is most of your information is unknown at the time. These are often developed out of a need or an emergency very immediately, something that you really didn't have much time to plan for. So the outline and your goals may not be known instantly. You may not know everything, the direction you're heading in at that moment, which again adds to the frustration of some of these campaigns. Your materials are often created as you go along, as information is made available, especially if it's a developing type of information. It kind of goes and you kind of create on the fly as you find out that you need a material. So a great example of this is severe weather. Here in Alabama, we are no stranger to many different types of severe weather. So we have to run campaigns like this all the time because you truly don't know. You may know some general information about what severe weather brings with it, but you don't know directional path. You don't know the areas it impacted fully. You don't know a lot of the numbers of who was impacted. So this is where a lot of the information is unknown at the time. So we're going to go through first talking about developing planned campaigns. This is a lot more concrete information and things you can actually plan a lot ahead of time. So I call these the 6 questions of success. So these are some questions that you need to ask yourself when you're developing your social media campaigns. So the first thing you want to ask is, what is the overall message or goal of your campaign? So it's really quite honest. What do you want to say, or what do you want to cover, or what do you want your intended audience to take away or learn from your campaign? So it sounds simple enough, and you think that might be something that you can say, well, isn't it obvious? But making sure that you establish that very foundational basic information as far as it goes with your message is the entire structure of your campaign, because this is what you're going to measure and build off of completely. So be sure the first thing you need to do is make sure that you know what is your message and what is your goal for this campaign. The second thing you need to know is who is the intended audience that you're going after. So knowing things such as ages, ethnicities, genders, even educational backgrounds, these are all important when you're trying to gauge of who you're trying to reach, because this affects a lot of the materials, a lot of the information that you're going to put through this campaign. It's going to impact this a lot. So knowing who your audience is, like I said, it will greatly impact the entire rest of the developmental stage. So this is a very, very important aspect to really, really hone in on. So, and obviously this can be very specific. You can go directly after certain ages, or it can be that the campaign is meant for the general public, any and all audiences that share your social media platforms. So that's, that's definitely an audience, but that definitely does need to be identified ahead of time. So the next question, and again, a very important one, is what is your timeline? So knowing upfront when your campaign should begin and end, if it's a timely information or if it can go kind of any time of the year, that's an important aspect to realize. How often you will post. Are you going to post 3 times a week? Are you going to post every day? Are you going to post twice a day for several weeks? These are something you have to know. And again, this will depend greatly on the days and times that you post will depend greatly on who your intended audience is. So this is why having that audience established is very important to figuring out your timeline, because here at Alabama Extension, we know that there are certain days and times when we're trying to reach our audiences that is not beneficial for us posting. We know that there's certain times where they're just dead to us. So knowing your audience is going to help you establish that timeline with how often you will post. And after all this is figured out, how much time does this leave you for production? This is something that may not be brought into these types of campaign developments a lot of the times, but really think about it. What kind of time schedule do you have for production? Do you have a certain time to produce whatever different types of materials you have? So this is really kind of creating your full timeline, going back and forth and knowing what's going to be timely for you and what you can get done within that timeline. So the next question is obviously, what platforms are you going to use? So campaigns are not evergreen with each other. One thing is not going to work for the next campaign. So you really have to determine your platform use on a campaign by campaign basis. There's going to be things where it may be, especially if you're going after a younger audience, like for us, for example, we know that Twitter is going to be our best platform to use for younger audiences, whereas Facebook is becoming more middle-aged and older populations. So knowing that ahead of time, and again, your intended audiences is going to help a lot with a lot of your development of your campaign, because it bases a lot of this. So that is very important to go ahead and understand which platforms you're going to use. So the next building question is, what materials are needed? So as I mentioned earlier, campaigns can use one or multiple different materials and mediums to display their information. And you really need to ask yourself to determine which materials you need. First of all, what materials support the message the best? So is it a video? Is it a graphic? Is it just a series of a really bold, beautiful image with some text accompanying it? You need to ask yourself what best supports your topic area and what's going to get your message out there to your audience. And then also, again, working back to a timeline, what materials can you produce within your timeline that we've already established in this campaign development? what materials are going to work, because there may be times where a video is absolutely the best thing to support your message, but you have a really quick timeline and you have a very short turnaround, and you know that you're not going to be able to produce the quality video that needs to be established and needs to be created in that time frame. So you may choose something else. You may choose a series of some simple graphics that still offer that visual aspect, but not as much production time goes into it. So that is very important in the part of the process when determining what materials you need and what materials you can use. So this question, how will success be measured? I feel like this is probably one of the most underestimated and underused parts in developing social media campaigns. Because you think about it, if you don't establish how you're going to measure whether this campaign worked or it didn't, how are you ever going to build off of a campaign and better your next campaign? So you really need to look and see how you personally are going to be measuring your success. And it can be anything. It can be engagements. Are you looking to get more engagement from your audience? Are you looking for more page likes or follows? Or if you're raising money, is it a certain amount of money that you wanted to raise? Whatever this parameter is, you need to be sure to set it and have this planned ahead of time, because in the end, this is how you're going to measure whether you failed or not. And this is so important. Again, I cannot stress how important this is for you to have this parameter set up ahead of time before you go into a campaign. Because again, if you don't have this set, then at the end of the campaign, if you look just broadly at, general things, you could very easily pick the most successful part of that campaign. It's like, oh, it was a success, but was that the aspect that you were looking for? And it could have been the aspect that you really wanted out of the campaign was the worst part about it. So make sure that you know how you're going to measure your success. So those are the 6 questions. You've answered the questions to start yourself into into production. You can now, after answering all these, you can start producing your products. So you're going to take time to design any of the videos or the graphics that you need. Go ahead and do that ahead of time. You're going to write the text and the possible hashtags that will go with each post. I highly recommend doing this ahead of time so you make sure that the series of posts that you have all fit within a brand and all fit within the message that you're trying to develop. So this is really easy to do if you can put those all on one place and kind of measure them against each other, whereas doing it on the fly, you wouldn't really have that possibility to do that. Capture or choose the images that work best for your campaign. So oftentimes, if we do this again on the fly, you may be rushed to think, and that image you may not have time to think about that image, how it emotionally charges the audience or how it makes them feel. And so, if you choose something just out of the blue, it may not go with that overall feel and goal of your campaign. So go ahead and do this ahead of time. And edit. Editing is such an important part of any process for production, but especially on social media. Because as we all know, social media, anything you put out there, it's going to be taken very, very quickly. It leaves a very small window for editing, and even through Twitter, you can't edit. So you need to make sure not only that grammar is correct and that everything style-wise is correct, but you also want to make sure, again, reaffirming that the materials and everything you have produced fully develops and fully encompasses the goal and the message of your campaign. So editing, a very, very important part of the process. So now we get into the interesting part of the presentation. How do you plan and prepare for something that's unplanned? This is one of the most difficult things as part of a social media manager can possibly do. Because as we talked about earlier, these are completely usually unknown. You don't know a lot of the information. You have very, very basic information. So while you can't necessarily plan for every exact moment, there are a few things that you can do that are going to help you prepare for those times that you have to launch an unplanned campaign. So the first thing that I really recommend doing is creating yourself a blank outline. So what we just went over, a planned campaign outline that we just went over through all those slides, create you a visual representation of those outlines. So if you have that version in front of you, you're going to be able to physically see what questions need to be answered, what have been answered, and how it's going to look going into the future. So if you have that visually in front of you, you're going to have that document that you can fill in as information comes available to you. So you can physically see the missing parts of your campaign as you go along. So you could say, well, I know that we've established who the audience is because we know, let's take severe weather, for instance, we know where the storm hit, but we haven't decided what materials we need, what's best suited for that. So you can physically see the information that is missing for your campaign. And this will also help you be organized because, as with the nature of these, they're emergency situations. Everybody is kind of running around like a chicken with their head cut off. It's very much a confusing time for most of these campaigns. So you need to make sure that you can keep yourself as organized as possible, and having this blank outline is going to help that. So, and include, these are what you want to include on your outline are those 6 questions of success. You want to go ahead and have those set up ahead of time, have them laid out so you can visually see what you're missing, what you have, and how you can move forward. So something that has personally helped us tremendously when it comes to unplanned campaigns is graphic templates. So as you can see on the screen here, these are not going to win any graphic design awards. They're very, very simple, but these are 2 different scenarios that we had. One was general storm recovery after I think several tornadoes had hit parts of Alabama. And then the bottom one is when Hurricane Dorian was knocking on our door, not here yet. As you can see, the text is the same color, the same bold, white bold around them, the logo's in the same place. So literally all I had to do was go in, retype the information into this, change the image on the background a little bit, and I was ready to export it and go with it. So we actually designed these for cover photos for Facebook. So this is something that is quick, it's easy, it's not going to be fancy, but it's going to get you there to where you don't have to spend a lot of time designing something, and you can focus more on what's the next step in this phase of the campaign. So I hope that's something that you will incorporate into your department, because these have been a tremendous help for us. So kind of piggybacking off of the graphic template, a text template is also very beneficial. Now, this is obviously not necessarily the same way a graphic template would work, but you can craft social media posts ahead of time and keep that document in your file somewhere. So especially, again, it seems like going back to severe weather emergencies, you can go ahead and what type of information is available on your website. For us, we have the emergency handbook that's available as an iBook, but also has individual pieces posted to our website. So we know with the information, the basics of preparation and recovery, that we can go ahead and create these types of social media posts. So on the left, you'll see it's just a screenshot of what our document actually looks like. So we already have these prepared, hashtags in place, links to the pieces that we want to promote, and they're ready to go. So really, we can go through here, only have to make minor adjustments, don't even necessarily have to make adjustments at all if they're kept in a general consensus, but we might want to say, in the first one, for example, we might want to add the reference to whatever storm was going through, Hurricane Dorian, Hurricane Michael, whatever we want to, and then the rest of the statement is a general statement. So these are very important to keep on file. I don't know about you, but it seems like weather wants to come through Alabama at really late at night when obviously your alarm's going off and you are posting something at 2:30 in the morning. That's not your best brain power time. So go ahead and save yourself a step and have this ready to go, ready for you just to fire through social media, and it can help you really save some time. So that's been really the whole gist of this presentation, kind of developing those types of campaigns. And I really hope that the information has been beneficial for you there. Now, I want to show you 4 examples of some of our popular social media campaigns, ones that we're very proud of. And we hope that by showing you these examples that you can take some of the ideas that we use, some of the materials that we used, and incorporate those into your own organizations. So the first one we're going to talk about is our wildlife campaign. This was an extremely fun campaign to do. We kept this thing fairly general. We didn't go very specific throughout the campaign, focusing on one area or one animal. We went through just basically what wildlife can you find in Alabama. So this was a very fun one to do. We used Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram. That's our 3 main ones that we use to promote this. We used a series of graphics and accompanying text and images, and we even associated several news articles with our social media campaigns that we wrote to kind of back up some information or provide extra information about some of this. We were very, very excited that this was chosen as a Gold Ace winner last year. We were very excited that our hard work paid off for something in that aspect. But this one, as you can kind of see from the 2 graphics below, these were 2 of our Instagram graphics that we ran. We tried to have some fun with this one, tried to play with a little bit of mystery, a little bit of ominence almost. You can see on the right, the mountain lines in Alabama. For my colleagues out west, this is probably not a question, but here in Alabama, it seems to be every summer a myth question type thing where, are they here? Are they not? Are people going crazy? Are they confusing it for something else? So we wanted to kind of play off of that, mountain lions in Alabama, are they here or are they not? So our one of our graphic designers, Bruce Dupree, designed both of these for us, and they did very well. They did their jobs exactly. The one on the left, the Alabama's most venomous snake is the coral snake. It's actually the most venomous snake native to the United States. And this is something where there's not very many occurrences of people being bitten in Alabama because they live under soil. They're not really seen as often as, say, some of our other venomous snakes, rattlesnake in Alabama. So this one was something that actually spawned off of a coral snake bite in South Alabama. A man had misidentified the snake as one of the common lookalikes that's non-venomous, and actually was bitten by this and ended up in the hospital. So we also used this time as part of our campaign to inform people about, hey, this snake is here. Here's some of the lookalikes that are non-venomous, but in all, don't pick up snakes if you don't know what it is, and just don't pick them up in general. So this was a fun educational campaign, and could be easily incorporated into any state in the country, incorporating whatever wildlife is in your area, whatever is popular topic for you. So moving on from a fun campaign, we really wished we did not have to have done this campaign, but it needed to be done. The Hurricane Michael campaign. Hurricane Michael came through Alabama, and with the Wiregrass part of Alabama and Florida and Georgia in 2018. And this was something that devastated particularly farmers in the Wiregrass area of Alabama. It was something to where it just so happened to coincide with on record, going to be on record, one of the best cotton crops in the history of Alabama. So people were threatened, their crops were threatened, and we ended up having a lot of farmers and producers lose their crops that year. So as you can see in the left picture, this was actually the preparation part of the campaign. There were farmers out there picking cotton all across the Wiregrass area, trying to get their crops in before the storms hit. But sadly, a lot of them did lose a lot of crops there. So there was really three main ideas behind this campaign. Like I said, the preparation part, because you kind of know ahead of time that the hurricane potentially could come your way. We did that. We did the part of the campaign where it's here, it's now, this is what's happening to the area. And then recovery. Recovery was a big, long part of this campaign. We launched a recovery website that had a bunch of information for that. So you can see that on the right photo, that publicizing that website for us. So this was a very long stretching campaign, and it was a very tiring one, but this was something that had to be done, and was helpful and instrumental to helping farmers in our state receive federal disaster aid. So we felt like this was a very important aspect. But we used, again, our Trilogy, Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram to use this. We used, again, the same graphic text, video, images, and news articles associated with this. And again, we were very honored that ACE awarded this a silver award that year for this campaign. So we were very excited that we were able to make a difference in our state through our social media campaigns. And everyone has instances like this. We wish they weren't there, but everyone has an instance from this and can learn, hopefully, a little bit from our campaign, and kind of how you might go about a similar campaign for yourself. So back to a more fun campaign. This was our Top Bug Tuesday campaign. And this one was one that was actually originated from one of our previously existing publications through Alabama Extension. It talked about the top 10 most wanted garden bugs, talked about beneficial insects, ones that you want in your garden to fend off some of those other nuisances that you might see. So this was a fun one. We had a lot of fun doing this one. The graphic on the left, every Tuesday, basically the graphic stayed the same except for the images and obviously the name of the bug. That changed out every week. But those colors and the design of the leaf in the background, those were inspired by the actual publication. Those were some of the colors used in that one. Also, the leaf kind of background was kind of an overall design in the publication. So we wanted to make sure to incorporate that as well into our designs for this one. This one, we actually had video running through. Whereas we use the graphic on Facebook and Instagram, we use the video on Twitter. And videos for us seems to be a lot more successful through Twitter. So that's what we chose to do that. So as you can see, this one was on spiders. And again, we had some fun with this one. So today is Top Bug Tuesday, sends shivers up garden pest spines. We tried to have a little bit of interesting scenarios running into that for the text associated with these posts. So this was a lot of fun. This was a lot of fun to use. Again, using Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram, using the graphics, the video, and the text going with it. And this year was awarded a gold award. So very, very excited and honored that, again, the hard work we put into this one and the fun we had paid off for us. And so this one was a fun one. Something a little different with this one compared to our normal social media campaigns. We had established this. Obviously, we knew it would be something important during the time it ran. It kind of ran in midsummer during gardening season. But we also wanted to take this campaign and look at it in a way and say, let's do some experimenting with our audiences. Let's make some test subjects and some guinea pigs off of this. So obviously it was narrowed down to a Tuesday. So we ran it on a Tuesday every week for 10 weeks. And from there, we played around with our times that we posted because we wanted to see, thought we had a general idea of the good times for us to post through each of our platforms, but we wanted to test that. So we would one week post some of these things really early in the morning, and then post really late in the afternoon the next week, and the week after that we would post midday. So we played around with the time. And that was already well established that we would do that in our planning. So this actually gave us a lot of interesting information. From this campaign, we learned that we are practically useless on social media past 9 o'clock all the way up until right after lunch. We get very little success reaching our audiences during that time period. We also found that on our Instagram page, most accompanying information from outside sources say that, kind of 7:30, 8 o'clock on Instagram is your best bet. That is not the case for us. If we posted anything usually after 5:30, it absolutely tanked when it comes to reaching our audience. So now we know our parameters. And so this was something that you can use a campaign for as well. It doesn't always have to be about a visual aspect to audiences of what the engagement or the likes or anything is. It can be simply used while educating your audience, use it for your own internal benefits. And so this was one of those. And so the last campaign that I want to talk about is our recipe video campaign. So our SNAP-Ed communication outreach kind of program is called Live Well Alabama, here for Alabama Extension. And they created a series of videos, recipe videos, that kind of resemble some of the cooking demonstration videos that you see through social media commonly. The ones of overhead, you physically see the hands preparing the meal. So they wanted to do something like that. And so our video team worked really hard and created, I think there was 19 or 20 of these videos. And they focus not only just on the fact they're recipe videos, all of the recipes used are budget friendly because of the audiences they're intending it. And they're also nutrition facts are taken into consideration. And so they're budget friendly and more nutritious than some of the other ones you might see. So this was a fun campaign to run. Our Live Well Alabama platform, instead of using Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram, they have found it very beneficial for them to use Facebook, Twitter, and Pinterest. They actually don't even have an Instagram page. They really, in the development of the materials that they knew they were going to post for this campaign and really any of their social media in general, they realized that Instagram was not going to offer them exactly what Pinterest could. So Pinterest, especially for recipes, that type of material seems to be a lot more popular on Pinterest than it is on Instagram. So they chose to go with that, and it's been a success for them. So that's another thing, that don't feel like you have to use the common types of platforms. If it's not developing what you want it to be for your program, then that's use whatever fits you best for that. So this one obviously used the videos and text accompanying with that. These were stretched out a lot of videos. So this was a long running campaign. The text kind of looked into a little bit of the seasonal type thing. We tried to time up the recipes with some of the seasonal type things. This one, obviously, November, sweet potatoes, Thanksgiving kind of correlation there. And this year, this was a silver winner for social media campaigns for ACE. Again, it's very honored. We're very honored to have something that we worked so hard on be accepted well by our colleagues, and the critiques we got from this were very beneficial to us. So this was something that, again, had a lot of fun with, something that you could potentially incorporate into your organization as well. And this could be something that we had a lot of fun with, and we hope you would potentially too as well. So that's the presentation. At this point, obviously, we would have had a Q&A session. So if you have any questions about any of the things that was said here through this, or you have any other questions about some of our social media strategies or campaigns we've used, please feel free to contact me. Again, there's my contact information on the screen. I would be more than happy to talk with you, give you a little bit of information. That's what we're here for. We're here to learn with each other and for each other. So again, I hope this information has been educational for you, and that hope that you can take some of the things that we used in this presentation today and apply it to better your organizations and better your social media campaigns. So again, thank you so much for watching.